This is Listen St. Louis with Carol Daniel. When I think about the critical issues facing Black and Brown residents in the St. Louis area, I often ask the questions: how did we get here? What's holding us back? And how do we progress? At 9 PBS, we want to deepen our understanding and change the narrative. Join me as I look for answers and discover solutions on today's podcast. The image of Black men in the media has long been the subject of controversy. A University of Pittsburgh study found that a disproportionate amount of news coverage of Black men and boys in that region focused solely on crime, while other studies confirm that media consumption of negative images and attitudes about Black males can even adversely affect the way Black boys and men see themselves. But today's guest is part of a movement led by a fellow native St. Louisan and well-respected comedian and actor to change that. Reesha L. Archibald is the creative director with A Bird and a Bear Entertainment, Cedric the Entertainer and partner Eric Rhone's production company. Find out how her journey led her to work with two of the top names in the industry and why she believes representation still matters. That's next on Listen St. Louis with Carol Daniel on 9 PBS.
Listen St. Louis with Carol Daniel is supported in part by Midwest Bank Center, the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation, and Orvin and Latrice Kimbrough.
Welcome back to another episode of Listen St. Louis with Carol Daniel. And let me first thank the leadership team here at 9 PBS for thinking enough of this concept to say yes to my idea to have a podcast that focuses on the challenges and the history that Black and Brown people in the St. Louis region have faced. And we try to answer three core questions. How did we get here? Because I'm a big believer in knowing where we were in order to understand where we are and in order to move forward in the best way possible. That's history, and we should be critical thinkers about it. And then to answer the question, who or what is standing in our way? And lastly, how do we progress? So we try to answer those three core questions on every podcast with every single guest, and we will do that today as well. So thank you to the leadership here at 9 PBS, and thank you for watching 9 PBS. And I have something for you to do. Yes, I said thank you, and then I'm going to ask you for something right away. Would you please subscribe? Because by subscribing, you are alerted to when the next podcast is going to air. And then share this podcast because someone else will benefit from this excellent conversation. Yeah, I'm calling it excellent, and it hasn't even happened because I can see that already. And then I want you to download. And I learned that from you. Many of you download the podcast to watch later because you're busy. And to share it, to like it as well. Liking it, let them know that, yes, we love what Carol's doing at 9 PBS. So like, download, share, subscribe, and comment. That's the last one. Your comments, I love them, even when they're not positive. Most of them are positive. Some are negative, and that's okay. You know, I'm Teflon. I can take it. I'm a big girl. So do comment. Let us know even what you thought of the podcast. And if you have ideas of what you think we should be talking about, that's where that comes in. So do all of that, and I will appreciate you. Even if you don't, I want you to know that. So how did you go from the VA to LA? How about that?
Wow.
Reesha.
The VA?
Yes.
Oh
I went
God.
all the way back.
I didn't know you were going back there.
I went all the way. Actually, it's like one of the first lines of your bio is you work at the VA. But
I did.
And we learned something today.
We did.
That we did not know, that we both are Blue Tigers.
Yes, we are.
We both are graduates of HBCU in Jefferson City, Missouri, Lincoln University.
Absolutely.
First of all, what took you to, I can tell my story, but how did you end up at Lincoln University?
Well, I always wanted to go to Howard. My oldest brother went to Howard. He's a double alum. He went to undergrad and law school. He left St. Louis and never came back. He's still up there. And so I wanted to be like him. My family, so I'm actually originally from Denver, Colorado, by way of St. Louis. So my parents are from here. And so St. Louis was always my personal second home. But we moved back when I was in high school. Shout out to Hazelwood Central. Yay. But because of her health, she deals with sarcoidosis. which is very similar to lupus. And so at that time, I decided that I didn't want to go so far away from home, that if I needed to just come back to St. Louis to check on her or help, like you said, I could do that. So Lincoln, I took a trip down to Lincoln and fell in love. Like, the people were amazing. The campus was beautiful.
It is so beautiful.
Oh my goodness. And it's such a gem. It's like a hidden little secret.
Hidden gem. Yeah.
And I fell in love immediately. And it was like an hour, 45 minutes away from St. Louis. And I was like, well, I'm going to just go to Lincoln. I applied there and Alabama A&M, got into both, but decided to go to Lincoln because it was much closer to home, so I could be close to my mama.
And you did undergrad and graduate.
I did. Yeah, I decided to just stay. I had such a great time at Lincoln. It went so fast, and I was still in school mode. And so I was like, while I'm, still kind of in this school space, if you will, just go ahead and knock out the master's degree. So I did. So I stayed an extra 2 years. I took like a semester off just to get a break. But I worked for the prosecutor's office in Cole County in Jeff City.
Oh, my.
And so I was going to work full-time and then school full-time until I got my master's degree. So I stayed. I love Lincoln. Like, Lincoln.
Did you get your MBA?
I did.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. So we're going to jump. Big jump.
Yes.
From grad school
Yes.
over the VA to Cedric the Entertainer.
Yes.
Let's just get right to it.
Oh, my goodness. So in 2010, I was working at Boeing at the time back in St. Louis, and they had a massive layoff of like 10,000 employees back then. And so that's what afforded me the opportunity to move to LA, because back then I was doing background vocals for like 10 different acts in St. Louis.
I buried the lead. She is a singer, actress and a singer.
Yes. But I was doing all these creative things, got back into acting, and decided to move to LA. So did that. And of course, being in the industry, like it's rough. Like, it's gig here, gig there. It's very sporadic.
Waitress.
Right.
Retail.
Right. All the
now
things.
Uber, whatever.
Exactly.
Right. In
so
between.
You get what you can.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, God, I don't want to go back corporate, but if that's the role you want me to do, then I'll do it. And so I was like, but please let it be in entertainment. And so I ended up working for NBC Universal on their corporate side for Universal Pictures in supply chain logistics for home entertainment. And so did that for 3.5 years. But and
that's a good job. One could just do that, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
But I had a moment when I first got the job, because I was literally going to work, going home, going to work, going home. And I had to snap out of it and be like, Reesha, you didn't move. You didn't go 2,000 miles away from St. Louis to come and do this.
Because had you stopped singing?
At that point I had, because the job was so intense.
Yeah.
And so that's when I had that pep talk with myself and be like, hey girl, you gotta figure it out. So I started going to work and then going to writing sessions, or going to work and then going to gigs, and going to work and figuring it out. And I'm so glad I did that, because I ended up losing my job at Universal after being there for 3.5 years, and was able to just flow right back into full-time entertainment. That same year, in 2015, before I got let go, I received a text message from one of my friends who's from St. Louis, Damian Smith. And he was like, hey sis, I need some help. I know you're tapped into St. Louis still, and I'm doing this feature documentary called Target St. Louis. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it was about the chemical sprays that were taking place in St. Louis back in the 50s and 60s. And he told me about it, and I was like, yeah, I can help you with that, because he needed lights. He needed a place to shoot, a location, and he needed people to interview. And he's like, if you give me those, I'll give you producer credit. And I said, bro, I got you. That's easy. Got it. And I was like, oh, wait, light bulb, I'm a producer. Wait a minute. Okay.
Because one of my questions was, when did you?
Yeah, it was 2015, spring of 2015.
Quite by accident in a way.
Yeah, it just found me. And then maybe like a month or two after that, another friend reached out and was like, hey, sis, we're doing this independent music TV show for independent artists. We know you're tapped into the music community in LA. We would love for you to be a talent producer. And I was like, easy, bro. Yeah, I got you. So it's really me just saying yes to things that I naturally did, but didn't know that I was producing. I'm a natural connector too. And so I used to pray all the time, like, God, why am I getting these supply chain jobs. What is this? And it was revealed to me years later that I had to gain those project management skills because that's all procurement is, or, supply chain is, because you're managing a process from A to Z and all the intricacies that are in between that.
And trouble. She said intricacies, trouble.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And that's all producing is. Producing is project management when you boil it down. And so 2015, lost my job. 2016, I booked like 4 commercials as talent. 2017, I booked 2 associate producer jobs working for Lifetime and VH1. 2018, I ended up becoming the executive assistant to Cheo Hadari Coker, who was the creator of Luke Cage. And a month after that, I had reached out to Eric Rhone, who is Cedric the Entertainer's manager and business partner. We all go to church together. We go to Shalom in St. Louis. And I was just checking in with him, just letting him know what was going on with me. And he was like, let's get together. I'm in LA. Let's get together. I said, okay, cool. So we got together. He was like, what's going on? What's going on? So I just downloaded him, with all the information. And he said, well, listen, we just got this deal with CBS and we're looking to expand our team by 2 creative executives. I want to pitch you.
And is this and when they are forming A Bird and a Bear?
No. So A Bird and a Bear has been in existence since they started.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So literally everything they've done has been under that banner. But they had
the CBS project
exactly the neighborhood.
Yes.
They had the neighborhood, and because of the ratings and how well the neighborhood did, they developed a first look deal partnership with CBS for A Bird and a Bear, and so it was just he and Cedric, and so they wanted to expand the team by 2 people to help them with
Enter Reesha L. Archibald. And first look means
yes. So basically what that means is if there's a project that Eric and Cedric wanted to produce, they first have to take that to CBS. They have first right of refusal, and then if they pass, then they can take it elsewhere. So, yeah, that's what first
and that's
look
important.
means. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, very important.
Yeah.
And so take us back then. So now we're going to go back again, jump back again to high school, college.
Yes.
When did you start singing? Are you the girl who was singing in church
Absolutely.
at 5? Okay.
Yes, at 2. My mama is a singer too. And so it kind of runs in the family, kind of on both sides actually. But my mama raised my youngest brother and I to sing and act. So we've been doing that since we were in grade school. And so I was definitely the choir kid my whole life. And so I was in the vocal ensemble at Lincoln. And of course, church choir, praise team, all the things. And so I've done some pretty amazing background vocal gigs in LA.
Drop names, girl.
My very first one, was with Morris Day and the Time.
Girl, no.
Yes, ma'am. Oh my God. Like,
what an experience.
And it was the original group. So they, back in 2011, and shout out to Carla Carter, who's also from St. Louis. She is a Grammy-winning songwriter, phenomenal vocalist, and she was working with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis for years. So she's helped write Usher records, Janet records from St. Louis. And so, but she's a good friend of ours from high school. And so she reached out to me one day and was like, hey, sis, the guys are asking me to do background vocals for them. I don't do that. So you want to do it with me? I was like,
she's a writer, not a background vocalist.
Yeah. And she would do backgrounds on records. So you can hear her on record, like Usher records, but she had never done it in person.
Ah.
Yeah. So session vocals is different from live vocals.
For sure.
But that was my jam. Like, I love a live vocal. Okay. So she called me and was like, can you send me some, some of your stuff? And I was like, yeah. So I sent it. And she's like, they love you. You're in. So,
do you know who you're going to perform with at this point?
I did.
Okay.
But yeah, she told me it was with Morris Day and the Time, but it was the original group. So they had an album called The Original 7, and it was literally Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis, Jerome with The Mirror, Morris Day, everybody.
My goodness. And how old are you at this point?
I was 20. No. I had just turned 30.
Well, now.
I had just turned 30. Yep. And oh my God, like that definitely was one of the best opportunities I've ever
I
had
would
in my
say.
life. And they are as cool as they appear to be. They are. And just so humble. She calls Terry Lewis Uncle T, and I just remember like the first time meeting him, just sitting at his feet like, oh my God. Like,
I'm sitting here.
Yes. And just all the wisdom he was pouring into us. Like,
so you are singing, you started too, but do you think that it is going to be a career? Do you want it to be a career? Or
I did. I literally left St. Louis to do background vocals, acting, commercials, and voiceovers. Because I had the voiceover experience from Lincoln and been singing, acting my whole life. I wanted to figure out commercials because they seemed easy, and quick money, So, yeah, that's why I left. So producing
again,
just found
VA.
me. Yeah. Yeah.
Because one has to eat.
One has to eat. Listen, when I was leaving grad school, I wanted to come back to St. Louis. I didn't want to go anywhere but St. Louis.
Really?
I did. I was at home like every weekend. I was so homesick once because everybody was gone. All my friends were gone. So I literally was in Jeff City with just a few people. I was the advisor of my Delta chapter and, pretty active with the local, groups there. But I was like, I want to go home. So I went to Omaha, Nebraska, because I could not find a job in St. Louis. And it was funny because...
With a master's.
Yeah. It's crazy. But that's just how God works, because I did that job in Omaha with the VA for a year. It was supposed to be like a 2-year contract, but it was, whatever. It was, contingent upon, if we kept the contract. And so I was leaving the VA after a year, and literally 3 days before I left, I got the call that I got the job at Boeing and was there for 3 years. Yeah.
And what is your advice, your wisdom, your encouragement to people who have this gift and dream and yet are doing something else that doesn't remotely touch the gift, they think doesn't touch the gift or dream?
I would say learn all you can where you are and let your corporate job fund your passion. Because, like you said, one has to eat.
Yeah.
And it was the VA, it was Boeing, it was NBC Universal Pictures that funded it sustained my living while I focused on what my passions were and what my purpose was. And so when it was time for me to go out and be thrust into it, because sometimes we have to be pushed into it, I was ready. I was good, for a while. And I was on the struggle bus for a minute because, getting that check every 2 weeks to nothing is a lot. It's stressful. But, I found odds and ends jobs, and substitute teaching was one of them. My mother's a teacher by trade. She was a Harris Stowe alum, and she's the president of the Alumni Association. Very proud Harris Stowe graduate. But I had that. I feel like people who have teachers as parents, we innately have that gift. And so subbing was one of my favorite jobs too. Like working at KJLU at Lincoln,
the radio
station, and subbing were two of my favorite jobs. And then now what I do now as a creative executive, because to me it's another form of ministry. Like being able to see value in somebody's project and say, hey, I love this. Let me try to help you get this sold. And then to get it sold is like the greatest reward.
The other, one of the main reasons that you and I wanted to talk was not only just about your journey and the inspiration that others can find in it, because we all know everybody thinks they want to be an influencer or they want to be famous.
Yep.
Too many of our children want to simply be famous or infamous. I don't know that they care or make the distinction. And as a parent, that's problematic and nerve-wracking because I want you to do something that uplifts. I do.
Yeah.
And so one of the reasons we want to talk about that, in addition to representation, and it is so. It's always been so inspiring, and I know Cedric and Eric, and I have said Eric's in my cell, but Eric doesn't take messages. You call Eric Rhone. This phone number does not. It doesn't even say this mailbox is full.
Right.
His message says, don't even leave a message because my phone don't take messages. Right. But anyway, the two of them, what you see is truly who they are.
Yes.
They really want to make a difference.
They
and so
do.
you being like the first hire of the company, the second hire of Bird and a Bear, you then buy into what they are representing in this industry.
Absolutely.
That has never been kind to Black people.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
So how have you navigated that part of the industry that would rather represent us in a buffoonery way, or a negative way, a violent way? You can be the maid, the drug dealer, the killer.
Yes.
But you're not the heroine.
Right.
Right.
That's why I look at this as ministry, because a lot of the projects that come across our desks portray our people as the heroine, the beautiful aspects of Black people. And so if we don't push our narrative, nobody will, right? And so I take it as a very I don't take it lightly at all.
Right.
That I'm in this position, and I try my best to make sure that I put my name in whatever oomph I can put behind it, because to your point, that's generally all we see are these negative attributes of our people. And sure, they exist, right?
Right.
But they exist with everybody, culture,
yeah.
right? But they intentionally, portray our people that way. And so it is my duty, it is your duty as people in media to change the narrative. And so, I've been asked to, do certain projects, and I'm like, I'm not doing that, because I got to go back to my parents. You know what I'm saying? My family.
Right.
Will my family be proud of me doing that?
Right.
No. Can I go back to church and be like, yeah, I did that? No. Like, I have to make sure that I do everything I can to make us look the best that we can. And so it's such an honor for me to be able to be in this position, to be able to say, hey, love that. Let's try to figure out how to get that made.
And this is not a rah-rah game.
No.
I mean, what we often hear, if you listen to those who are in the game and have been in the game a long time, and I hesitate to use the word game, but who have been in the industry and on their path for a very long time, what those who have gone before us have always wanted is to be able to show the depth and the breadth of us.
Yes.
All of us.
Yes.
To show all of us. Yes.
That's what I love, little name drop on Johnson. We have a show called Johnson that's on Bounce TV.
Fourth season.
Oh my God.
Yes.
It's really unheard of, but it's also on Hulu. 3 seasons are currently on Hulu. For the 4th season will find its way there at some point. But that's what I love about this show is it portrays Black men the way we know Black men. Sure, we know Black men in all the ways, right? But when they brought this show to me, Thomas Q. Jones brought this show to me in 2019. And when he was sharing it with me, immediately I was like, send this to me right now. Because I saw the men in my life in that narrative. There were 4 Black guys just living life like brothers do that they never show on TV. And I'm like, this reminds me of my brothers, my ex-boyfriends, my close friends, my uncles. It was all of those things. And I'm like, this is what we need to see.
Right.
Black men need to see themselves this way. Black women need to see Black men this way. Black children, boys and girls need to see Black men this way. And everybody else need to see Black men this way. Because I think that generally, due to media and just in person, a lot of times we are portrayed as the worst of us.
Right.
And again, sure, that exists, but it's
not
not the
all
norm.
of us,
And it's not
right.
the norm.
Yeah.
it's not the norm.
And so give us the storyline of Johnson.
Sure. So Johnson is comprised of 4 brothers who
And are they blood brothers or
no.
Yeah.
So
Bruh.
Yeah, brothers. So they're 4 black men who are best friends, who've been best friends since they were in grade school. So they met because you know how back in the day you would line up by your last name?
Yes.
Because Johnson is so common, they were all lined up behind each other in line.
I love it.
So they became best friends when they were in grade school. And so fast forward to now in their mid-30s, and we're watching them navigate life together and all the things that they deal with that may destroy their relationships. We touch on their relationships with the women in their lives. One of them, Omar, who's played by Thomas Q. Jones. He's in a marriage, but they are going through divorce in the first season. They have a child, so they're going through a custody battle, so touching on fatherhood, because a lot of times black fathers are portrayed as deadbeats and so forth and so on, all the negative connotations, but that is not the norm either.
Yeah.
And there's stats that prove that. And so that's a storyline. And then we have Greg, who is played by Deji LeRae, who's actually the creator of the show and the writer, and one of the directors also. He's all the hats. But Deji's character is Greg, and Greg is kind of like the fly by the seat of his pants character. He's trying to figure life out. He rents his place on Airbnb, and he drives Lyft during the day. So he's like, we don't know what he's doing. He doesn't know what he's doing. And then we have Keith, who's portrayed by Philip Smithy. He's like the quirky one of the group, the sweetheart of the bunch. And he's the creative one. He's the photographer. And so we're watching him navigate. And then we have Jarvis, who is played by Derek Brady. And he is the real estate mogul. And he has the white wife. And we're watching that whole dynamic and how the guys, Greg kind of holds Jarvis accountable because he seems out of touch sometimes. So it's just the dynamic of all these different types of black men, but they're all coexisting together. And that is so true with black people because we have so many different types of black folks. Oh my God.
Yeah.
We are a breadth of different personalities and attributes and all these things, but we all coexist together through our families or like just the history of growing up because we're very loyal to the folks we grew up with, so you have all these different personalities kind of intertwined with one another, and we're watching them navigate with each other and just around their communities and as black men in America.
Talk about the difficulty of getting something like that actually made. When we know we've all heard, and I shouldn't say we all, but many of us have heard the horror stories that it's not black enough, or it's too black, or I don't know anybody like that, or can you blacken it up? I've heard an actress was describing what a casting agent was saying to her.
Wow. So disrespectful.
Right.
My goodness.
Yeah.
It is a difficult process just in general to get anything greenlit. It is no short of a miracle, really, because there are so many dynamics that go into getting something greenlit, so many yeses that have to be yeses,
Everybody has to fall in line and say it.
They do. And the brilliance that Deji and Thomas did was they shot the pilot episode. So when I took this to a Bird and a Bear team and we agreed to partner on it, I shopped it around personally to 10 networks, and Bounce was the one that said yes.
Were they number 10?
They were, actually. And it just so happened, not just so happened, it was God. One of my best friends, Kalila Allen Harris, connected me to the then executive vice president of Scripps Networks, which is, then Kate's/Scripps. But he is a black man himself. And when I met him, I told him who I was and told him I, wanted to connect with him before he left LA. So we set up a meeting with him and his colleague and learned what they were looking for the network. And I think he had been with Bounce or Scripps at that time for like a year. So he was trying to kind of change up the layout of Bounce particularly. And they let us know what they were looking for and trying to do with the network. And I told him, I said, I think we have some projects that can reach some of your goals. And Johnson was number one on that list. And so I sent it to them. They loved it immediately. We set up a meeting with Deji and Thomas, Eric and I, and David Hudson and his colleague JJ. And they loved it. They loved the guys. They loved us. And it was greenlit in January of 2020. And we started filming November 2020. So very quick process. But and that doesn't that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen at all. Yes, years. Absolutely. Yeah. But with Deji and Thomas having that pilot, that helped. And although I took it around town, and Bounce was the one that bought it, there was one group, All Black, that was interested, but they had something already similar. They had greenlit, so that's the only reason why they didn't take it. So shout out to Brett Dismuke for even trying to figure out a way to get it in. But everybody else is like, I like it, but we don't know, we don't have any room for it, or there was always something, right?
And how did you take those some things?
Listen, I am a strong believer in the no's make room for the yes.
Okay.
And so,
because you can't get caught up, even if one of those no's was, it's not black enough or it's too black. Or I mean, even if one of those no's had the whiff of of the R word.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Because those things do make us upset, right?
Yeah, but we keep
forging ahead.
We had a guest on the podcast, Dr. Marcus Howard, who has the only Black-owned pharmacy in the state of Missouri.
Wow.
He's not the first, but right now he's the only in the state of Missouri. And he's 31, I think.
Amazing.
But in trying to get the financing, he reached out to 80. He had a list of 80 or list of 79, and it was number 79 that said yes. And for you, it was it was number 10.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you had an 11th in mind.
I didn't. I didn't know where else to go.
See, so that,
I didn't know where else to go.
So I do love the keep going.
We
must keep going.
We have to. Because when you're doing what you're supposed to be.
By the way, it's Greater Health Pharmacy is
Greater Health. I'm going to have to write that down so I can let my parents know about that.
Yeah, please do.
Absolutely. But you have to forge ahead because what is meant for you is for you.
And you won't find it if you stop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Bounce was the perfect partner for us. They were so supportive. They understood the assignment.
And what was it for Eric, Rhone, and Cedric and you and the other team at Bird and a Bear that made this the project for the moment? Because we've talked about representation and the desire to show the full Black human experience. So what was it in this project?
It was just that. It was humanizing Black men. It just made sense because we hadn't seen it in that way. And it's a dramedy, but all the comedy is situational because life is funny, right? So it just made sense because we needed to see a narrative like that. So it was an easy yes. Especially Eric, when I took it to him first. And he immediately was like, oh yeah, this is it. He knew it. And I wear the badge of honor that was the first project that we sold that didn't have to have Cedric as the lead to get it sold.
Right.
So I love that too. And I love that it was that project because it does portray our people in such a beautiful light. And the thing I love about Deji LeRae is that he does such a an outstanding job of touching on points that hit our community in a real way, but they're also just, again, human experiences.
Right.
So I remember we had an officer who was Latino one day on one of our shoots, and he was, looking at our monitors and, getting a whiff of what was happening in the scenes. And he was like, man, I love this. He was like, my cousin just dealt with the same thing last week. So it's, it doesn't matter what race you are, what your background is.
Common human experience.
Exactly.
And I know that before we talk about 13 Days in Ferguson, I'm curious what you're hearing from, you're now into your 4th season, just started. So you have enough in the can, if you will, to get a sense of what viewers think. Oh,
the viewers love it. And they appreciate that they're seeing themselves in this way. We did a talk yesterday at Harris Stowe, and some of the people had seen it, some of them hadn't. And it was a brother out in the audience, and he was like, this is my favorite show. We get that a lot from black men who say, this is my favorite show. Why? Because it's humanizing black men.
Yeah, showing them in a light that's not just, like I said, drug dealer,
exactly,
murderer,
exactly,
right, deadbeat dad.
Exactly.
And so talk about 13 Days in Ferguson, which just aired on CBS, I think?
Yes, right. August 9th.
Yeah.
It was the 10th anniversary of Michael Brown's murder. 13 Days in Ferguson highlights, and is from the point of view of Captain Ron Johnson.
With the Missouri Highway Patrol.
Absolutely. He was the captain who was appointed by then Governor Nixon to be on the ground for the 13-day investigation of the Michael Brown murder.
And who marched with the protesters,
Yes,
which was an incredible controversy.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. That film just touches on his experience, those 13 days, and all the things he had to endure, not only as an officer, but as a black man. I remember when we were having our meetings about this, and one thing that literally brought me to tears was that he said, during those 13 days, he said he came into the fold wearing blue, and don't quote me on this because I might be getting it not
exactly
spot on,
right.
But he said that he left a black man. And he said that during that time, he was reminded of how important it is to not only have black men as officers, but the importance of making sure that the people feel comfortable with the officers. Because during that time, he literally had to create the peace because there was so much chaos at that time, and anger and disappointment and all the things. And he also saw how he was being used,
right?
And so in all of that, he had to find the humanization within himself, even because I think that a lot of times in law enforcement, they brainwash those officers to be just blue. And in that moment, he was reminded that, I'm both. And I have to find that balance. But it was a beautiful story of this man who had to figure out a way to walk that fine line.
Right.
And he did it. And I remember watching everything going on in Ferguson back in 2014, because I was in LA then. And when they brought him in, I was both very happy to see him
and scared to death
at the same time. So fast forward 10 years, which is insane to know that was a decade ago.
Right.
To then come to know this man and his family. He's such a blessing. He's such a light, and his heart is huge. And I am glad that he was there because it could have been so much worse. And he did all he could. He really did all he could. And that documentary, it so beautifully, shout out to Deborah Riley Draper, who was the writer and the director and EP on that project, also a Black woman. But she so beautifully told that narrative and asked all the right questions, and then wrote it and put it all together. It showed St. Louis in a beautiful way to me, because I have such a love for St. Louis. Like, my parents are from here, my grandparents, were raised. My grandmama's from Kinloch on my mama's side. My paternal grandparents and my maternal grandfather were not from here originally, but this is where they set their roots. So all my aunties and uncles and cousins and everybody are from St. Louis. So I've always had a very strong affinity to this city. So much brilliance here, so much love here, and so much history here. Civil rights was very profound here. And to know that heart is still strong in this city. And we saw it through that documentary of just how people love this city, but we also want it to be as great as it can be.
And that means addressing the real issues.
Absolutely.
Because it is I hesitate to say meaningless, but it's difficult to turn the corner, turn the tide, if we don't understand who we were.
Absolutely.
And how much love exists, how much creativity exists, how much possibility exists.
Absolutely.
If we only focus on if we only focus on negativity.
That's right.
And difficulty.
That's right.
That's
right.
I mean, we can handle the difficulty. We just have to have the will to do so, and the belief that we are worthy. The city is worthy of being all that it can be, of capitalizing on the opportunities.
It is. I mean, St. Louis has brought so much to this country, to the world.
Right.
When you think about the music and the creative people that come out of it, and I mean, it being like the sixth largest city at one point in the country, all the infrastructure that it had back in the day. Like, I drive through Wellston and just imagine how phenomenal it was in the 30s and 40s, and back when Ike and Tina were running the streets, And
that's why the people can, you can pause this video on YouTube, and the photos that are blown up that are in the room now. That's why I wanted to have a representation of St. Louis then.
Yes.
To have that then. These are cheerleaders from Beaumont in the corner here. Have that representation then, because who we are today is not always it's not who we were.
Right.
And it's just so critical that we open our eyes.
And that's why it's so important for us to know the history and to know the dynamics of where we come from, because we come from that greatness. And that's what helps me push forward, because our people are amazing. Our people are dynamic and brilliant and all the things. And everybody knows it. That's why we influence the globe.
Right.
Everywhere you look, Black Americans are being represented in some way. They don't give us the credit for it.
For sure.
But we know it's us.
Right.
We got the sauce. They know it. We know it. But that's why, for those of us who are in these positions to make sure that our people are seen in a certain light, it is our duty to make sure that we are.
And what's possibly next for someone who once sang background for Morris Day in the Time? You're in a great spot right now. I mean, you could continue to do this until those locks are gray.
I can. And that's the beauty of entertainment, right? Like, I was telling one of our casting directors from Johnson, our main casting director, shout out to George Pierre. I was like, I'm putting my actor hat back on, bro. And he was like, why did you ever take it off? I was like, I didn't take it off. It just, producing just kind of took over.
For sure.
But, Are
you singing in Johnson?
No.
Because I was zooming in on one clip, and I'm like, I can't tell, it was a club scene, and so the lighting is, and I'm like, I can't tell if that's Reesha. I don't think it's Reesha, but is it Reesha? I
did do a little cameo in episode 10, first season.
Okay,
My
I don't
little
know what season I was
Alfred,
looking
Alfred
at.
Hitchcock moment.
Okay.
But
So
no.
you're going to return to, you're going to go back in front of the camera.
Yes, I love acting. I love singing. So I'll go do some session vocals somewhere. You know, I don't have to go out on the road. Like, that ship has sailed. Like, I'm never. The road is not for me. Okay, I thought it was. It's not. It's not. Unless we're on a plane, a bus, I can't do it. Like, if I'm driving, that's a different story. But if I'm on a bus, like going city to city, no, that's a lot.
That's
and
a
shout out
life.
to everybody who does
it,
that,
yeah.
because I know a ton of people who do that. And that's what made me not want to do it, because I was like, oh, that bus is nice, but that bunk bed looks like a coffin. So can't do it. I'm too claustrophobic for that. But
Well, it's good to know what you want to do and what you don't want
exactly,
to do. Yes,
exactly. But yeah, no, listen, I have been gifted a lot, and I cannot leave this earth and God be like, well, Reesha, why'd you do one thing? And I'm like, oh, well, I didn't have time, or that took over, or whatever.
Yeah.
I've got to do it all. You know, people say, oh, what do you really want to do? All of it, because I can, and because I'm supposed to. Because again, it's ministry. When I'm wearing my executive producer hat, I'm using all my gifts, because then I can be in a role. I'm helping crew up. I'm helping cast. I'm helping with notes on scripts. I'm literally using all of my gifts. I'm helping with budgets.
The imaging that we see is the result of every single decision that
it.
you are making.
Yes, yes. But when I think back to the VA or Lincoln or all these things that I've done throughout my life, all of it has informed where I am right now.
Can I ask you before we go, though, if we were to look at this thing, whether it's chessboard or we're playing, you know, whether we're on the field or the court, it's a game. Where are we in shifting the representation, in improving the representation? And again, I said it before, this is not, you know, us trying to portray a la existence of black men or black women, but a real existence of a full existence of black men and black women. Where are we in the game of trying to shift that to a more positive? Because we have hundreds of years of unpacking to do.
Yeah. You know, it's sometimes discouraging because if you think back to back in 2008 when the first writer's strike happened, a lot of those black shows that we knew and loved disappeared because our shows are the first to go. Fast forward to now, we just came off of 2 strikes from the Writers Guild and the Screen Actors Guild. And yet again, we're seeing our shows go by the wayside. And so knowing that, you know, the studios are reeling in, they're tightening their belts. Oftentimes our shows are the first to go, unfortunately. So it is, that's why I was very, very proud of CBS for greenlighting 13 Days in Ferguson, because it's not typically something like a narrative that we would see on particularly CBS.
Yeah, a major network. Right?
Yeah. So when I found out it was greenlit, I was like, what?
Well, you know that, and clearly that happens because of the value and the man that Cedric is.
Absolutely.
That only happens because of him.
That only happens because of him.
He's not out there being a trifling individual. He's out there being I don't want to say the word quality, but he's a man of integrity.
Absolutely, he is, and so is Eric, and they got that show greenlit, but it takes people like Cedric and others like him that
use
have
his capital.
Absolutely, it takes them to fight for narratives like that, because when the bean counters are counting the budgets and the pennies and the dollars and all the things, they're looking at what makes sense to their bottom line. And so we have to have powerhouses like your Cedrics and other, you know, amazing people like that to say, hey, this is important. This is what we want to try to do. Let's make it make sense.
The thing that is frustrating to me about that is those bean counters, as you say, right? Who are looking at the bottom line. You've long been making judgments
Yeah.
about what is important.
Yes.
And you've long said to some of us that we are not important.
Absolutely.
So do not now come to me and make me try to, and which is the reality, to convince you
right.
that this is important.
Right.
We have always been important.
Right.
You have not believed it.
Absolutely.
So it's trying to convince the powers that be in the bean counters that we are important and we are relevant beyond the twerking and all of that. It's still a struggle.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, I think that it takes us, again, moving forward, pressing forward, figuring out unique ways to go around
Yeah.
where the roadblocks are. You know, I've been having a lot of conversations with friends of mine who are also in the industry, who've been in the industry for years, and we're all like, we know how to do everything. We just need the money. So we're trying to figure out ways to get the funding.
I have to ask you,
Yes.
because you, in addition to being creative executive with A Bird and a Bear, and I take it that Eric is the bird.
Yes.
Cedric is the bear.
Yeah, exactly. They're both Kappas, and Eric's nickname or
His line name?
one of the two is Swanee. So the bird.
Oh my gosh!
Swan.
Okay,
The
Swan.
bird, yeah.
Was Cedric's nickname Bear on his line?
I don't think so, but I think he, you know,
It's alliteration.
Yeah,
A bird
yeah.
and a bear. Okay, all right. But in addition to your as creative executive with Eric Rhone and Cedric the Entertainers production company, you are the head of operations for Fighting 99th Productions. And instead of Googling, I did a lot of research, but I said I'm just going to ask her.
Yeah.
I knew it was military, but it is.
Yes, it is.
But even the greater story.
Yes.
Is that
So Cheo Hardari Coker is, that's his production company, and that stems from his grandfather, who was a Tuskegee Airman, and that's paying homage to his grandfather. Yes.
I love that.
Shout out
much.
to Cheo. Cheo's amazing. He's so brilliant, and you know, he saw the value in me immediately as well. You know, it's just a blessing to be championed by these brilliant Black men who have all this, like, power in their
Creative
own
energy
realms.
and vision,
Exactly.
and integrity.
Yes.
But the difficult thing is people will watch this, and I'm sure, because I'm a mother of a creative, and you always want to know, well, how?
Yeah.
How do I get from A to B? How do I get from A to F? How do I
Yeah.
get down the road?
Yeah.
And sorry, Reesha's journey isn't going to help you.
It's not. It's not.
It's not going to help
It's
you.
all God. What I will say about my journey that will help you is like, don't mistake your forward movements, your backward movements, your sideways movements as you not being progressive. Like, I don't know anybody whose career path has been straight. You know, it's been a lot of yeses, it's been a lot of no's on my end and others, right? But it's been me just being resilient and intentional about staying focused on what my goals were, and then saying yes to things that I wasn't really sure of, but that I knew would add value to myself and to others. So when Eric Rhone was like, hey, I want you to be a creative executive with my team, I'm going to pitch you for this, I didn't fully exactly know what that meant. But I said, if Eric Rhone,
Right.
and the great man that he is, and all the things he has going on, if he sees value in me,
I'm saying yes.
I'm saying yes. And I'm going to
we'll
figure it out along the way. You know, but I did add value just in ways that I didn't know I added until I got into that space. So I would say to anybody who is trying to figure it out and navigate things, like, if you feel like you can do it, do it.
And that's whether you're a CPA or
Absolutely.
or a hairstylist or
Absolutely.
makeup artist.
Yep.
Right.
My oldest brother, when I was at the VA looking for jobs, I was, just scouring the internet, and I saw the supply chain logistics job with Boeing. And I was like, they talked about procurement in grad school a little bit. I don't really remember what that is. Let me go look that up. I was like, oh, fancy term for buying. Got it. Yeah, they definitely talked about that. But I was like, okay, I think I can do that. That sounds easy enough, right? And I was like, but looking at the qualifications, I don't know that I have the qualifications for that. And
some, but not all, I'm sure.
Some, but not all.
Right.
Exactly.
We get tripped up by that.
We do.
Yeah.
We do. We get tripped up because we're looking at all the things, and it's like, well, I got some of this, but I don't, maybe not. Maybe I can't do this. But my oldest brother, Gregory Michael Evans, to make sure we differentiate from any other Gregory Evanses out there from St. Louis, he said, Reesha, don't you disqualify yourself. He said, you let them tell you you're not qualified. You don't disqualify yourself. If you think you can do it, you can do it. I said, okay. And that was all I needed to apply for that job. And
don't disqualify yourself.
Yes, that's right. And he told me that. I applied for that job at Boeing. I had a 5-person panel interview over the phone.
Those are horrible.
But I nailed it, and I got the job based off of a 5-person interview on the phone.
And now she is a creative producer of the 4th season of Johnson on Bounce, and soon to be, well, the 3 previous seasons are on Hulu
yes,
already.
They are, yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Congratulations on all of your
Thank
success.
you.
Blue Tigers in the house.
Woo-woo.
Lincoln University. Yeah,
You
baby.
better know it.
You better know it.
The
You better
real
know
LU.
it. The real LU. We know you're having some issues, Lincoln
Right.
University, but we represent your history.
We do.
Yes,
we do.
We do.
We love you still.
And by the way, we can add, if you've seen Abbott Elementary at all.
Yes.
The janitor in Abbott Elementary.
Yes.
Graduated from Lincoln University.
Yes, he did.
In 1975.
Proud Lincoln alum.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And St. Louisan.
And St. Louisan.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And name drop. He and I were inducted into the Hall of Fame together.
That's amazing.
Just a little.
Hello.
Yeah. It's so good to see you.
You too. Thank you for having
thank
me.
you for stopping by.
I'm so honored.
And
Thank
sharing
you.
some inspiration and talking about the very important topic of representation in the entertainment industry.
Thank you for having me and touching on these very important narratives for our people, because it's needed. If we don't do it, nobody will.
Absolutely.
So thank you to you.
And you'll tell Eric and Cedric we said hello.
I sure will.
And the next time they are in town,
yes, ma'am.
dinner's on them.
Right. Done and done.
Reesha L. Archibald, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us for another episode of Listen St. Louis with Carol Daniel. We will be back next week with more. Do not forget to subscribe, to like, to download, to share, and please leave your comments. I love to read your comments. Thank you again for joining us. We'll be back next week with another episode of Listen St. Louis with Carol Daniel right here on 9 PBS.
Listen St. Louis with Carol Daniel is supported in part by Midwest Bank Center, the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation, and Orvin and Latrice Kimbrough.